Right, very good evening, everybody. Candid conversations from lockdown, brought to you by Kyalami Park Equestrian. Competitions are over, so straight into it. My guest this evening on this Wednesday evening is Master Simon Henry. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Adrian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Going a little bit stir crazy. How are you? Where are you talking to us? From Lone Hill?
Yep, from Lone Hill, Beverly side.
How's life?
Good. Yeah. Firstly, thanks for having me on your show, keeping us entertained during this time.
Well, I was running out of guests, so I mean, I had to.
Yeah, I know. Am I your last?
How's the riding going? You commuting to the stables every day? You still doing your thing?
Yeah. So at least we are able to get to the yard every day, keep those horses and clients' horses working. Yeah. I mean, it's kept us busy. You know, Tanya's been able to ride, so at least that's got her out the house a little bit as well. So she helps me with our young horses while I carry on with the clients' horses and some of the dealing horses and that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, we've kept busy. The kids get to come with, so that also helps to get them out the house, ride their bikes around and stuff. So it's been okay.
So for everybody who doesn't know your setup, just tell us a bit about it, where you're based, what you offer. You're a livery yard, and you've now got some dealing horses in there, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, so I've got a yard in Glenfinnes called H Equestrian. So we've got a huge yard. We've got 26 boxes. Offering a variety of service, liveries, obviously training. We have a bit of a dealing business on the side as well. I'm a coach as well, so I do a little bit of everything.
And it's a very nice yard, Simon, all built from scratch. So take us through that process. You guys designed it and built it all yourselves. It's a pretty new establishment. How long have you been going?
Yeah, so we'll be up running 4 years by the end of this year. We looked at it, when we were shopping around for properties, my partner and sponsor as well, Simon Byrne, came in with us for the property. And, we shopped around for quite a while trying to looking around for the sort of best options. We came around this place, and it happened so quickly and before it was snapped up by somebody else. And that carried on. And then obviously the whole building process, designing it, and we try to make it work best for us.
It's a beautiful place, a lovely barn. You've got a walker there, fiber arena, so all the amenities, top class facilities. And what do you offer? Is it livery and coaching?
Yes,
you're the man. You don't allow other coaches in. If you want to come and train at H Equestrian, Simon's your man.
No, you wouldn't be allowed at all.
Are you talking about me?
No, livery and coaching. So I'm predominantly a coaching coach that comes and teaches there.
Right, let's talk a little bit about you. For those of you who don't know you, tell us a bit about yourself. But let's go right back to the beginning of the story, like I do with all the episodes, so we can get into your headspace a little bit and how you got into horses. Were you mom and dad horsey?
My dad used to ride a little bit. It's not, I think, sort of socially hack and that type of thing. But I mean, way before us, didn't ride in our time. And my mom, not at all. She didn't know what it was all about. And it was actually my brother, obviously watched some movie or something and thought, this horse riding thing looks like a good idea. So that's when they sort of booked lessons and decided, well, this is the way to go. So I just sort of tagged along, and that's where it sort of started.
Do you remember the movie? Was it like The Man from Snowy River or something, with him coming down the face of that cliff?
But that came a bit later. It was a movie called The Horse in the Grey Flannel Suit.
The Horse in the Grey Flannel Suit, and that was your introduction to riding?
Well, that was, my brother had watched that movie, and we he got the idea, my folks booked a lesson for him, and I sort of like, no, I don't have to type thing, and I went along, and that's where it all started. And that all started. We started at where Bryce McCall's property is now. Probably, what do we know? 30 odd years ago, when before obviously Bryce was there. But that's where we started. It was a riding school called Riverbend Riding School, and started obviously riding with ponies, and that's
and it was the whole like up down riding school, follow, and the ponies trot around the ring, that kind of stuff.
100%. That's all it was. Like I said, my brother went along. My brother went along, and we used to go riding and together, and then eventually he pulled out, and I'm the one that carried on.
Are you Joburg born and raised, been in Jersey your whole life?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm born in Joburg, been here all my life.
School?
School as well. I grew up sort of on the Northcliffe side. Went to St David's for primary school, and then moved across to Northcliffe High later in my schooling career.
Okay. Now, from ponies up down, what happened next? The bug bit. You convinced your parents to get you your own pony?
Yeah, so we obviously carried on riding ponies for, I don't know how long we carried on sort of riding the school ponies for. But yeah, eventually the bug bites, and then you think, oh, let's get clever, and then your parents buy you a pony, and then that's sort of when we sort of started competing at shows. Competing at shows, and then it just, I suppose, it progresses from there. Eventually, I think then we, as things got on, we went to a show in Mabatu, I think it was, and that's when we met up with Ronnie Lawrence, and that's when I started training with ponies with him, and that's a long story as well. So we'll get to that.
So did you, once you got your own pony, were you still at Riverbend, or did you have a property of your own, or did you always stable out?
No, I kept the pony in Riverbend, and I used to, in those sort of, 30 odd years ago, we used to ride, Ronnie used to be based in Chartwell side, so I used to hack across all the way from Riverbend, over a river, up through Chartwell, and go and have lessons at Ronnie's place in Chartwell, sort of 2-3 times a week, and then hack back when I was finished on my crazy pony.
And any other sports you were interested, or was it just riding? Did you have to do any other sports at school?
Yeah, I mean, before riding, I did everything. I mean, soccer, cricket, tennis, swimming. I did everything. And sort of, once I got more serious with riding, obviously that took up most of my time. Halfway through primary school, I was riding every day. So I didn't have much time for any other sport.
So as a kid, much success in children's before going up into juniors, and at what stage did you start coaching with Ronnie?
I was probably about 10, 11 years old, somewhere around there, even 9, 10 years, 10, 11. I went across to Ronnie. My pony was a bit of a bastard, so I didn't really have much of a pony career. I moved on to horses pretty soon, actually. I got a thoroughbred from ponies. I think I got a thoroughbred off the track. Started riding and having dressage lessons and doing a little bit of that, sort of trying my luck there. And then later on, when we had moved across to Ronnie's new farm in Muldersdrift at that stage. That's when we decided to move from Riverbend and move across that side. And then I think from then I remember my folks getting me a sort of an older thoroughbred that done a little bit of jump, sort of B grade at that time, had done a bit. So that was, sort of your schoolmaster then to get me to a few shows and in the ring and just get a bit of mileage, really.
Mm. So you had a good junior career though.
Yeah, so I had many, lots of different horses. I don't say I had, top horses. I was always sort of producing horses actually, and I think I got up to the sort of 130s then, or what was it, JB? I think I got up to JB or something. So yeah, I was always sort of producing horses at that stage. I was always had young horses, and I was always riding young horses. And even my junior career, I sort of got to that point, and by sort of when you were allowed to go adults, I moved up quite soon into adults. And then obviously then we could sort of do still young rider classes. But most of the time I had lots of young horses. I was always riding that type of horse. Sort of that's how it was. That's how I just ended up. So only really later along in life, sort of in my adult career, did I really sort of get going. Also, not so much in my juniors, children's and juniors at all.
But the juniors laid the foundations because you weren't spoiled with made horses, and I got to be careful what I say when I say spoiled, but you were producing horses, which was great groundwork for where you are now, because it laid the foundations, teaching you how to take a horse off the track, doing all the donkey work, all the leg work, and getting up through the grades. Makes you a better horseman.
No, 100%. I don't regret how that's how it ended up. I mean, I was, my parents supported me in every possible way, kept horses for me. I always had a horse, you know what I mean? If it was a young horse and whatever, if it just ended up, not being that good enough, or we ended up getting another one, just that's how it ended up. But that's how I always ended up producing horses. And, and I was lucky enough to, be with Ronnie for years. And, he was so good at putting good foundations down and teaching you the right way and with the young horses. And I think, that stuff, you never forget. So I was very lucky that way. And I think I don't, like I said, I don't think it was a bad thing. Riding, I got to ride early on in my career. I rode lots of horses, even though they were naughty ones. So, it was, got to work through those, sort of end up knowing what to do. And when you had your own horses later in life, you sort of, horses with similar issues or whatever, you sort of know what's happening. But yeah, I think it was good. I mean, like I said, Ronnie always, and even when I worked with, rode him all those years, he always gave me lots of horses to ride and always worked. I was there most weekends riding, and, I think even though I didn't have sort of top horses, I always rode some good ones of his, so rode them and jumped them. So it was very lucky in that way.
At what stage do you remember that you decided that horses would be what you would do as a career, that you weren't going to, well, did you study? Did you work horses going to be your career always, or did you just fall into it?
No, so obviously finished school. I started at Wits. I started doing sort of BSc in biological sciences there, hoping to get into veterinary later. And that was fun. And then eventually I finished at Wits, and then I went across to Tuckies and started sort of the veterinary side of things there on main campus. But I think I was about 2-3 years in on that side. And I think, I always had horses. At that stage I had my sort of good thoroughbred Walkman at that stage that sort of was coming up into the big class, sort of touching in the bigger classes and the open grades. And I always had him, so I was always riding. I mean, it was 7:30 lectures and racing back and riding and then going back for the rest of the day. So it was back and forth to fits in that. But I think by sort of 3rd, 4th year, I've sort of had enough, and I always wanted to go and ride overseas and go and give it a go, and just see what it was about more than anything, even if it wasn't for the long stint, but just to give it a go and see how it went.
Mm. Let's go back to those Ronnie years. So you started with him as a kid, you moved through juniors, you were training with him, producing horses, and then, but you were a client of his because you stabled horses. When was the transition that you then started working for him?
Oh, that was that. I mean, yeah. So obviously, I was a client. Yeah, we were clients of his for many years. I only worked for him when I got back from overseas. So much later that I actually worked for him. But I used to spend most of my time there anyway. Riding, and I'd go to shows and stuff with them. And I was always around. I've always been involved with. I was always involved with sort of all these horses and keeping that type of thing. So. But yeah, I say I only really worked for him much later when I got back from overseas, and yeah, much later on.
We'll get to overseas in a minute. Tell us about Walkman. You had him in juniors and then moved up into adults, and you say you started cracking the big classes. Was this before overseas, obviously?
Yeah, so this was sort of during my sort of matric. Yeah, sort of high school, matric, and then sort of years in varsity. That's sort of when I had him, and we bought him off. We bought him from Ronnie. I mean, he was a naughty little oak when we got him. But yeah, man, Ronnie, sold us the horse, and we trusted him, and he was one of those horses that we all need in our life to sort of get us to that point, to get us in the ring. And he was, a little thoroughbred off the track. He took me through, all the up to the sort of grades. Took me into the young rider classes. Jumped a first World Cup on him, and I think he took me around 2 derbies as well. So I mean, even though it was cricket scores, but I mean, he said it was my getting in there and doing it more than anything, which was great. My parents kept him going. And kept me going in it as well. So it was,
do you remember? You say it was a thoroughbred? Do you remember his pedigree?
He was by Midbeat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there were a few of them. Nice jumping.
No, he was a good oak. And then when I then I was overseas. I went overseas for a year. My folks.
When was that?
2005, 2006. I think I was 2005. Yeah, I think I jumped Derby 2005 on him, and then 2006 I went to end of 2005. I went overseas, and then I came back later 2006. I was only there for the sort of year what my passport sort of allowed at that stage. So.
And where did you go?
So I went across to England. I went to Macpherson, which was great. It was great. I mean, even, it was, lots of hard work. And I remember the first 2 weeks of being there being the most, my body has never been so sore ever. And, once you sort of...
Is that from the mucking out to the number of horses you had to ride?
Yeah. I mean, sort of during my stint sort of there, I didn't ride very much. Sort of rode horses at home and that type of thing. I didn't do much riding, but I mean, I did lots of other things, like, even grooming, and I did everything else, which was fine. I mean, I was quite happy with it. I mean, I learned a hell of a lot, from management point of view and horsemanship point of view, which we would have never done at home. So whatever I learned there, I definitely keep that. And, how I run my yard is, it's how you sort of want to keep it, do the same. So it's, it was good. It was good. I mean, I think I was there with him for about 5-6 months. We went across to Spain. It was good fun. It was good learning. It was good learning. Just whatever you can just absorb and take it all in.
Yeah. But you say you didn't do much riding or competing while you were there.
Yeah, not with David. And then later on, I moved across. Actually, what happened? I actually had a day off, and I actually met Ronnie Healy at one of the shows. It was all that during.
He gave you a day off.
McPherson, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got a day off, and I went to actually met.
And one day off changed my life.
Saved me.
So
And
you met Ronnie and he
yeah,
set you up somewhere?
Yeah, so he knew that I went across to William Funnell. He knew that he was sort of looking for a rider, and yeah, I think the following week I went for a ride and an interview and whatever, and then I ended up sort of a month or two later back at William Funnell's yard. So and that's that was really cool.
And tell me about him, William Funnell, and his methods of training and his kind of attitude to the whole thing. Because I'd imagine McPherson is very meticulous, pedantic,
Yeah.
and was William Funnell kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, or was he kind of the same?
No, it was a bit like chalk and cheese. You know, William was a hell of a lot more relaxed in everything. You know, we didn't get with everything. You know, we're mostly, you know, it was sort of at the beginning of the sort of the Billy Stud. So that's when they sort of had a lot of young horses coming in, and that was, you know, that was really our job. There were a whole lot for a drive. We'd sort of start backing them and really start and getting going. And whatever sort of ones that they had there, we would go to shows, and, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds. Yeah, and it was good. I mean, you would sort of, you know, I think the shop was sort of going, you'd send you off with a truck of five horses. Here's me off to a show on my own, and, you know, you've got to just carry on. You know, I didn't know how anything worked there. I mean, when I was at Davis, I sort of pretty much stayed inside stables all the time, and now I was off to a show with 5 horses and nowhere, not a clue where to go, but got to a show and found the place, and we carried on. So yeah, I mean, it sort of takes you out your comfort zone a little bit, and late, you know, sort of coming back, you know, being at home where you've always had, you know, where you've got an instructor always standing in your arena and sort of holding your hand all the time. Now I was, you know, all on my own, and now I had to sort of think of it for myself, which was tough. You know, it took a couple good, you know, that takes a couple of, you know, a couple of outings and that to actually go work it out. You know, so it was huge. It was a huge learning.
But there was no pressure on you, or, you know, when I spoke to Ronnie, the pressure was on you. Had to win classes, and whereas William you were production, getting the young horses out, giving them an experience.
And it was nothing. Yeah, it was nothing. Yeah, it was nothing like that, which was nice. I mean, it was, like I said, it was sort of in the early days when it wasn't, you know, it was sort of just getting started. So maybe like the first crop or something of horses that they got in. And so the pressure wasn't, it wasn't huge amount of pressure. It was exactly that, just getting the horses out, and it was all just local shows, and which was fun. At least I got to ride, and that, you know, was it was a little bit, you know, that was the aim, you know, just to get a bit of ring mileage there and experience it.
Did he help you much with the horses, or was it just left to your own devices and crack on?
Yeah, he did. Not very much. He was sort of also had his top horses as well, and he was away a lot. So we sort of, you know, there was I think 3 other riders or 2 other riders, and, you know, we sort of helped each other and just got on with it, really. And obviously when he was back in town, we were sort of, you know, we'll ride together and that type of thing. But yeah, no, he doesn't see it. That guy doesn't say very much, so sort of just got on with it, really.
Is that where you learned how to drink?
No. No, that was before. I think that was when that was earlier on. When I was with McPherson and
to calm your nerves.
Yeah. And Ollie was there at that stage, and Sean Neal, and so that was probably all their fault.
Yeah. Well, if Sean was there, we'll definitely blame.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. Lights out.
Now your visa runs out, and you come back, and then you transfer back to Ronnie, and you start riding for him and working for him.
Yeah, pretty much. So when I still got back, I still had, you know, my folks, you know, kept my thoroughbred going. This side, Ronnie was sort of still riding him and keeping him going, and you know, so when I got back, I was still able to. I think I got back and I sort of jumped back on him, and I think I competed in Derby. Sort of that was 2006. I competed in Derby that year. Yeah, then later on, you sort of, we sort of decided that, it was time maybe time to sell him. So we sold him sort of later on, following year. And that was, sort of set me up. I sort of, once we had sold him, I had some money in the bank, and that sort of, from there, I sort of started buying a few thoroughbreds off the track and to slowly start producing them. Sold a couple. And what else? That happened.
Was this out of Ronnie's yard, or you had
this
moved
was all
out?
right. This was all a little bit before. So I was still obviously with Ronnie, but I wasn't working for him at that stage. This was sort of on my own. I sort of wanted to start up a little bit on my own when I got back. Sort of get on my own 2 feet and sort of see what's out there. Gets a few riding jobs and work and that type of thing. Sort of that's how I sort of started. And then met sort of along those lines. Met my wife now, Tanya, who obviously, which we later on moved to her folks' property, which also ran out a bit of stables out that side. And then from there, we sort of that's when I worked for Ronnie sort of mornings, and then I still had other work jobs around, sort of kept going that way.
Your association with the Fran Laren stud and the Whippet, was he the next big horse to come into your life after Walkman, or were there the other horses in between that took you up to the top?
So much. So what's after that, we sort of sold a couple of thoroughbreds, and then we started. Tanya and I moved into her folks' place in Ramsey, so we sort of ran up some horses up there. I rode a really nice mare of hers while she was busy still studying. And then at that stage, I rode for Ronnie. And then before that, before Fran Laren, I rode a few different horses all over the place. I did a few young horses for the Beckers at that stage, which we also later sold on. And then we kept going with Ronnie. I was with Ronnie about 4 or 5 years. I worked for him. And then later on, and when Ronnie decided to go overseas, that's when I sort of got a call from Lynn, and that's when I went to chat to Lynn, and that was sort of the next journey, I suppose.
Well, tell us about that. How did that all happen? She just obviously spotted talent, called you in. Who was riding for her at the time? At what level was Legionnaire?
Well, Legionnaire only actually came on much later actually, when I was riding for Lynn. I think I started with Lynn's with their young horses first. Got lots of. I had probably a whole lot. I had probably eight or nine young horses that I was riding, which was fun. I also got we got to lots of shows, and it was it was a lot of fun. And the horses are really nice, and we had some some really nice ones. I think Legionnaire only came on much later, sort of maybe a year or two later. At that stage, I think before him, I think Michelle was riding him, and I sort of, I think she felt pregnant, and I still got hold of him. So lucky me, I got lucky.
At what level was he when you took him over?
No, Legionnaire had done a lot. I mean, he had already, I think he had competed with a lot of people. I think before him, Jason Phillips rode him before me. Michelle also rode him. Bruce, I think, rode him as well. Before that, I think James White even broke him in because he was a naughty oak. And so I got him much later in his career. I think he had been jumping 140s and 145s with Jason and Bruce already at that stage. So I got him much later on. So again, he was also a good horse to sort of get going with, and get up into bigger grades with him sort of immediately. I mean, I didn't mess around too much. Like Woodlands like 130 class, and then the next class is a World Cup class. So But no, it was good. He was again another one of those horses that you sort of need in your life to get going. It'd been a couple of years since I'd ridden in the bigger classes, so it was nice to be back there again, and sort of start, getting a full season under your belt, jumping World Cups or SA Champs, and I think he did 4 or 5 derbies with me as well, and he was a tiger. Never a day gave me a day problem.
And he wasn't a big horse. He's quite a small horse and quite a lean horse, but looks like when he walks into the ring, he just grows a few hands. He's one of those, just rises to the occasion.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, even at home, he was actually so lazy, and we didn't do much things in the school because he got quite bored. So we did a lot of different things, but he was actually quite a lazy oak most of the time. But when he started jumping and got into the ring, he lit up. He came alive, that little oak, and that's when that's when he was actually, when he was in the ring, he was his best.
And tell us about some of the success that you had, because there was a World Cup win, I think, in the indoor, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah. So he was sort of, it was actually, I think I had a whole season, in the bigger classes and World Cups and that under sort of him already. So I think it was another year later. I think he was 19 years old at that stage. And probably like one of our best years. I mean, he had been placed in maybe a few World Cups before the previous year. But we won was the Equidome. We won the World Cup there. We won a class earlier one earlier class in the show, and then the World Cup he came clear. He just ended up winning it.
Was that your biggest win up until that point?
Yeah, it was. No, it was for sure. I mean, he'd won lots of little, sort of 140 classes and done really well then. I mean, that's sort of where he was most comfortable. That sort of that height, and if he was clear and you had him in the jump off, he was unbeatable. So to have him in sort of clear in a World Cup and then going to a jump off with him, it was anyway, if he was clear and he was always fast, so it was always hard to beat, I think. But yeah, definitely my biggest win then, for sure.
Absolute little tiger, champion horse. So since Legionnaire, are you still riding for Fran Laren? Are you still doing a little bit of work there, or is it all about H Equestrian now?
No, so so finishing up with Legionnaire, sort of probably kept him after that. Now he was 19. I think I did another. I think sort of end of his 19th year. I think he won a Grand Prix or something as well at Maple Ridge. That was also a cool class to do. So that was that. And then I think by the end of when he was 20, I sort of done another year and toned it down a little. We selected shows. Maybe did a Grand Prix here and there, and then I think I finished up the year when he was 21 even, and then he was still healthy and sound and everything, but that was when he sort of time for his life in the paddock, just to retire. So
and he's now on the stud, just having a happy life.
Exactly. He's still enjoying life there and jumping out of his paddocks like he did every other day. So no, he was a good horse. He was a really good horse to have. Really, really good horse. So, but even during that time, I always, with Lynn, I always sort of obviously had other horses as well. I always had a good mare with Tanya, good horse that belonged to Tanya, and then I also had a whole lot of horses that I was still. For a long time I had been riding for Simon Byrne, and obviously lots of horses that produced up with him, and that's eventually ended up with the two that I have now, Casper and Lindors, which are my two good ones at the moment.
How did the association with Simon come about?
Well, just I just started, sort of in those early days when I sort of got back from overseas and I was looking for sort of riding work and that type of thing. I actually started riding for his brother Charles, and they had a property on Maple Road, and I started riding for his brother Charles, just sort of exercising his horses, sort of a couple of days a week. And then at that stage, Simon had his horses there, and then I, slowly started working, taking over the horses that he had. So not really competing wise, sort of just keeping them exercised, and that, because Simon still competed a lot and on a thoroughbred and that at that stage. But I was just really exercising horses then. Sort of only later on did it, when we got some horses, we got some horses from Kyalami and that type of thing. So we get going and start competing those, and taking them up the grades.
So Casper and Lindor, have you produced right from the get-go?
Yeah, they were both from Kyalami auction. I can't remember the years, but they were both from Kyalami. I think Casper's coming now 11, and then Lindor will be 9, somewhere around there. Those we got, and we produced, obviously from the day they left the stud.
Must be very rewarding producing a horse right through the grades, knowing that all that work and where they are today is because of you. And 2019 was a big year for Casper. There were the South African Championships. You excelled. I think you had two big classes. Was it a World Cup?
Yeah, really good. Yeah,
Rebel and SA Champs, right?
Yeah, had a good year. Sort of end of 2019. Yeah, was a good year for him. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he had a good year. He had a good year. We sort of started off a little slow and sort of built him up towards the end of the year, and here we are now, sort of 2020.
Yeah.
So
well, don't play it down, because you landed up on the podium for SA Champs, and that's a tough show through the qualifying and then going into the final class, and it's over 2 full rounds, and then if it's still a quality of score, you go to a jump off, and he just shone.
Yeah, no, he did, and it was probably normally in previous classes, if we had jumped a Grand Prix or something, we had always built him up. Started him off small and built him up through the show, and ended up in the big class. And sort of SA Champs sort of was a big test, because we had to start in the 150 class and qualify, through the show. And he was serious. I think you had to qualify. You had to be in the top 8 in a class to qualify, and he was just out until the last qualifier, and he squeezed it in 8th, and then he got into obviously the last day. But he was, that was a big step up from starting from the 150s and carrying throughout, and he was super. He really jumped. He exceeded my expectations and got better and better, actually, as the show got on. And by the last day, he was on form by the last day. So that was really from that, and then obviously built on, and that followed on. We followed on with the Revel World Cup, and again we started in the lower grades, and then built him up to the World Cup class. And again, I thought it was quite a big class. Nothing he had never seen anything like that. So to have a clear round, I was quite stoked. So and then I think I ended up second or something, and he was I was very happy with that.
You were second in the World Cup, and in SA Champs you were
third. I was third. I think I was still third. Yeah. It was Kelly and Home, John, and then myself.
Yeah. No, it was a wonderful class. Very, very exciting.
Good. Yeah. 3 clear rounds. I think it was 3 double clears. Yeah, 3 clear rounds. So it went down to the last one. Yeah, definitely.
Now, you obviously had huge expectations for your string and for especially those two, Casper and Lindor, this year. You're just keeping them ticking over now. Do you think we're going to get back in the ring? And when we do, what is your plan? You have to go right back down to what, 130s and build them back up again?
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been able. That's Casper and Linda are stabled with Simon Burton on his property, so I haven't been able to. Obviously, I haven't been able to get there. I'm hoping to sort of try and get there quite soon. And, but they are being exercised. Simon's daughter rides as well, so she's been able to sort of keep them going. I mean, obviously we've jumped or whatever, but just keeping them ticking over, I think it's fine for now. Especially if we don't know how long this is going to be going on for. So, so hopefully soon I can get there and we can start doing a little bit more. My horses at home, they've obviously done a bit more. I'm able to get there every day, and with Tanya's help, and she's able to help with my young ones, and at least they can get going, and clients' horses and also the dealing horses, they can also just keep ticking over, and that's sort of how much do we don't know really how long it's going to be and how much can we do. I don't want to push them too much, so they've sort of just had still keeping fit, but sort of a bit of downtime as well, I suppose. Doesn't be too bad.
Yeah, unfortunately, talking to people, it looks like for the most part, it's going to be a lost year really for equestrian sport.
Yeah,
I can't imagine any big shows. If we do get back, there's going to be kind of smaller stuff, I would imagine, but nothing that's going to.
No, I agree with you. I think
gather a crowd.
No, I agree with you, and I think even if it's a couple of shows just to get the young horses out again, and the younger and the older horses as well, just to get them out really, and sort of have right off the year and really just have a couple of shows to just get them in the ring really more than anything, so don't, hopefully we can start fresh in the new year, next year, say next year, but it's a way off.
Let's talk a little bit about your training. Obviously, Ronnie has been the only coach that you've ever trained with, am I right?
Yeah, sort of in the early days. I was with Ronnie for 20 odd years, a long time. Obviously I was overseas, that's in between one. So yeah, I call it sort of around 20 years. But I was with him for a hell of a long time, and then worked for him. But yeah, no, Ronnie was a great trainer. For myself, that's how I met my wife Tanya, and sort of she had a horse stable next to me, and that's so yeah. I owe to him for that. And yes. So from Ronnie then left went overseas, and then that's when I joined up Fran Laren. And then with Fran Laren, and actually during that stage, I always, with Simon's horses, we always, we train with Dom now, and we sort of go there once a week. So I was always, after that, I was training with Dominic, and still do. And we still go there once a week with Simon's horses. And then I still, with Lid, it was nice as well. It was quite open. Some of the other horses that we did, we trained with a couple of lessons with Gonda. I also went to Anna for a little bit initially when I first started riding Legionnaire. I went to Anne-Marie, which was also really nice. She was got to really helped me with him, and sort of in the beginning, sort of allowing him to be a little bit how he was. He always wanted to be a, run to the jump, and always, she always encouraged me to let him do that. That's how he got his jump, and that's where he got his scope from. So, and she, so it was a good. That was, from all of them, really, they've all been great. And I think sort of after sort of, being under Ronnie's wing for so long and stepping under, going to everybody else for a little bit. I certainly learned a lot from everybody else, and not that Ronnie hadn't learned a lot from Ronnie. He definitely laid the bricks and the foundation early on. But it was nice to get a different eye and a different perspective on things, and that's which is not a bad thing. And then I think also with Dom and that, we've also been lucky enough to have people like Rob Hoekstra out, which I think was really, really good. And I think that's changed a lot of aspects for a lot of people's riding. I think that sort of thing really stepped up the game. I was lucky enough to go with Chad and Chad and them. Then we went to the States to go and train with Chris Kapler, and we had a lesson. We had a lesson with George Morris, and that, which was those type of things. Were huge for me. Those were huge learning curves, and whatever I learned from them, I use every day today. So those were sort of those are
what was the biggest thing you took away from your trip to the States? What did they say to you? Were they complimentary?
Yeah, they were all very nice. Obviously we all were capable of riding and that, and it was more the way they did things. I think I enjoyed their flat work a hell of a lot, and I took a lot away from that, and how to bring that back and train, and also to teach it to my students. It was a nice way to bring it over and follow it on.
Was there anything that really stood out that was different, or were they just more intense on their flat work?
No,
was it just
nothing. It was just, I think it was really explained really well, and it just came across and made a lot of sense. Not that we've never done this stuff before, I'm not saying that we've never done anything that we've been taught. It was just put everything together and put it all into perspective. Maybe I just needed that way, sort of instructions. Just put it all together, and it just it made a lot of sense. So that it was good. It was good, from the riding side, and I suppose things like their turnout and their care and things like that. That's second to none. It's unbelievable. That type of thing. The care and that is unbelievable on that side.
The reason I was asking about the coaching, you have a very distinctive style in which you ride. Very, very correct body position, very still in your upper body. Your body control is awesome. If I was to say there's a rider that's the epitome of upper body control, it would be Simon. You let your horses go to the fence, keeping very, very still, and then jump up to you. You never see your body going forward to the horse. Who was the person that drilled that into you, instilled that into you? How did that come about? How did you keep your shoulders from rounding like the rest of us?
Well, I still think I hunch very badly, so thanks. I think from early days, I think anybody that started riding with Ronnie early on in their life, and then I think Ronnie was very correct. If you looked at, back, sort of when I was there those days, you had all you could spot a rider from Ronnie. Myself, Ronnie Healy, Tracy. It was like, who else was there? Haltier, and then were there Lynn, my wife as well. She also can ride, and Ronnie, I think, definitely instilled that sort of that, like I said before, that foundation on you. That I don't think it could have got anywhere else. And I think just through the years, I suppose we all try and be as strict on ourselves as we can. I think that's where I'm. Maybe I'm just harder on myself than. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's the reason. Obviously, Dom keeps us in check, and I think that helps as well. I think you always need that somebody on the ground to sort of pick up anything any bad habits that you can pick up. And also, when I was in the States, old George Morris definitely picked up that. So maybe I have his voice in the back of my head all the time as well. That I've got my hunched shoulders, so I need to. So maybe that's why.
Get your shoulders back, Simon.
Yeah, sit up properly.
Sit up properly, Simon. Your methodology behind your training. What do you work at? Is it, they say, well, fundamentals of show jumping, the horse needs to go forward, the horse needs to come back, the horse needs to be reactive off your leg, but it's all the things within that. Those are the basics. It's pretty simple, but it's how you do that. Are you straight? Is the horse supple? Is he balanced? So what kind of things do you work on at home in your flat work? And what kind of training over fences do you employ? Are you a gymnastic person? Are you a grid work person, a cavaletti person, just jump tracks?
What I sort of like, sort of try and do a lot, especially with my, with my students and that at home and that. I mean, I do quite I do quite a lot of flat work with them and a lot of sort of pole work. I always sort of say to them, if there's something that, if you have a problem with jumping, it's 90% of the time it comes down back to your flat work. So we always try and fix it on the flats and with through pole works and very simple things, but keep it simple, but try and keep it as correct as possible. And then all of a sudden put the jumps up and the jumps are in the way, and then nothing, it doesn't really make much of a difference. So just keeping that correct, and just the big, I always keep the basics and keep it simple, and if we've got all that in place, coming to a fence or jumping a course and all that type of thing, it just comes together.
Are you a rider who works on yourself as well as your horses? I.e., do you drop your stirrups every day and work on your position and exercise those muscles? Are you disciplined like that?
Yeah, I think I'm quite hard on myself, and I think I need to, I think most people who ride, besides my once a week when I go to Domini, the rest of the time we sort of ride on our own. So yeah, I think we have to be a little bit stricter on ourselves. Yeah, I mean, I put my stirrups down and ride without stirrups every now and then. So I think we need I do just to keep keep the muscles keep the muscles working, and always working on your strengths and that type of thing. Always do. I think we have to. I think it's definitely benefits you.
When you are not at Domini, who are your eyes on the ground?
Joe and Mike, my grooms. Yeah, so most of the time, if I'm at home riding, it's only me, it's myself. Nobody. Especially obviously my own horses at home, and that's it's most of the mornings and that, if I'm training, it's on my own. So not many, no one else really, besides when I go to Doms.
How many horses are you getting through a day? How many horses are on your string in normal times, not in these lockdown times when it's clients' horses?
So sort of competing horses, we've got about 13 or so, sort of varying up and down the grades, and sort of some very young horses, obviously, into sort of my top horse. That's sort of at the moment, and also obviously my wife's horse in there there as well. She hasn't had time to ride on that, so it's 13. I think so it's about 13 horses that we can sort of get that I have. The moment.
That you getting through every day, or are you on a kind of a rotational basis where one will
rotation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we sort of can do maybe 7, 8 in the day. Sort of try and get with a bit of teaching, so I can get some done in the morning and a little bit in the afternoon, and then teach a little bit the rest of the day. And exactly, rotate the lunge a bit, or they can hack a little bit, or so we try, and exactly, we try to always try and break it up. If all the horses have a show, and they have to obviously take a bit more priority, and then swap it over the following when the young horses have a show. Sort of trying to mix, big horses have a show, and then the young horses have a show, so all have their bit of time. So I think that's sort of how it's worked. It's working for now, so not too bad.
Are you a rider who will use training aids like a running rein or a Degogue, or is there a place for them, or do you prefer to do things like the classical way?
If they the moment, sort of I try and work things out without anything, and just see how it goes. I mean, I haven't really found a need for it, but yeah, if it's, if something needs to be it, I mean, I will use a running rein or maybe a go or something, even if it's for, sometimes a student or something that may be, more to go, something for a student, but a running rein or something, but yeah, just for, maybe a couple of days or something, just to help along, to help out.
Now, obviously, Tanya's very, very into horses as well, and I've seen you guys at the Young Horse Free Jumping. Are you into the breeding? You have horses out on the stud. Is that something you guys enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I've met Tanya, that's been her passion. So she's always loved it and always had, she had that really good mare that she had, and when she came to the end of her career, we put her in foal. And yeah, so Tanya's always had an interest with it. So we've, slowly done maybe like one a year. If we haven't done that, we've maybe bought like young, sort of 6-month-old foals, and sort of, to get horses sort of that way, maybe it's where it's a bit more affordable. Sure, you got to wait for the time. So, so we bought sort of 6-month-old foals from CS, or 2 or 3 year olds also from CS as well. So, and also the ones that we've bred. So it's, that's sort of how we've sort of got going, at the moment. So not too bad.
Now you've teamed up with Tracy Carney and Yanni Kleinans. You guys have started a business. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we sort of, when we started speaking about this, Yanni and I sort of chatted about this probably this time last year, about sort of doing something along those lines. We started up as sort of a website called Cypher Sport Horse Network. And yeah, I mean, it's a horse advertising website. You can, anybody that's got a horse to sell, there's criteria that we sort of go through to have a horse on the website. It needs to be vetted and x-rayed beforehand. We sort of obviously look into its history. There's a bit of criteria before we sort of put it on the website. So people when searching for a horse, that it has been through a little bit of a
vetting process. Hello.
Yeah, through a bit of a vetting process and being selected. So hi Aidan. Hi.
Hello.
Time for your bed. It's been through a bit of a vetting, sort of a bit of a selection process, and at the time we can show it to clients. We can present all that to them. Videos, history, exactly what people are getting, the price, everything is up front. The horse has already been pre-vetted, so you're not stuck 4, 5, 6 months down the line, sort of back in the same situation if the horse hasn't been vetted. So I think it just skips avoids.
You're trying to reduce the risk. You're trying to reduce the risk for buyers.
And avoid sort of six months down the line when you're still trying to sell a horse, to try and avoid that. We want it's sort of be all up front. Pretty much it was basically to be up front from the beginning. This is what the horse is all about, and this is what and just to avoid stuff later. And pretty much.
And do you and Tracy put the horses through their paces? Are they based with you guys, or if a seller has a horse, can they keep it at their house and just put it onto your network, or how does it work? Do you guys, if somebody wants to sell, do they have to come to you or Tracy?
So we have 2 different options. I mean, either we can sell the horse from your own yard or wherever, and then certain place, some or the horse could be sent to myself or Tracy or Yanni. and we can sort of run it from our yard and sort of still compete the horse if need be, and show the horse from our places or wherever. So yeah, there are those options. At the moment, there's sort of all the horses that have come to my place, and so we can run it. If we need to show people, they can come. Come to me, and we can just do the sort of tryouts from my place. But yeah, we're all involved. If the horses that are sort of on different properties, myself, Tracy, or Yanni will go and try the horses and have a ride around, and just not to push them, but just to get a bit of a feel. So when we have clients looking for horses, we sort of have more or less an idea of how they feel, and try and match them up. That's try and find the best horse for our clients. So that's the ultimate goal for that.
Now, when you're not riding and being a family man, is there any time for anything else? Do you try and do any supplementary exercises to keep yourself fit and strong for riding, or is it a full day with the horses and the kids?
Yeah, that's. I mean, obviously the kids and the riding keep us busy, but I think Tanya and I we try and do like Tanya goes more often than I do, like 3 days a week. I do like a boxing fitness thing, which I think has been really good for me. Definitely core strength and just to be fit. I think it's helped a lot. Sort of been doing that for 2 years now, and I think that's helped my riding. And that's it just completely just something different. It's helped. And then that's spend time with the family and that type of thing. And that's what more do I want.
Advice to youngsters who are passionate about the sport, but they see the amount of money that's involved, and perhaps they don't come from that amount of money. When I think about you and the story that I'm hearing from you, you're somebody that had that passion, that wasn't spoiled, that took the young horses, produced them, made your way, find yourself up in adults, grafted, and is now at the top of your sport. So what has been your recipe for success, and some advice that you can perhaps bestow upon those people?
I just keep working at it. I think even if you having the experience riding different horses, getting on the ring on any different horses, and just doing it, and that's what just getting in there and getting on with it. I think that has been the way to do it and to learn. Say riding lots of different horses and producing horses off the track, and just I think just learn to be patient. Be patient with them, and just it all falls into place eventually. It might not seem like it at the times, but it's eventually the horses, especially the young ones, they do, it does fall into place. But just be patient and just keep working at it. Every day we still work at it. You are going to make mistakes. I still make mistakes. We all still make mistakes, and we just work through it and learn from them and carry on. That's sort of what we
I ask most of the people who I've interviewed the thoroughbred warm blood question. You're a man that has had success at the top level on both. Walkman jumped you around the Derby a couple of times at thoroughbred. You've now moved primarily over to the warm bloods. Comparison for you, is there still a place for the thoroughbreds out there? Has the game evolved too much? Has the tracks evolved too much? Or would you recommend that if somebody doesn't have a huge budget, that they can go off and invest in the warm bloods that do cost, that the thoroughbred is as good a horse?
No, I still think there's still a place for the thoroughbred. So I've got clients that still have thoroughbreds, and obviously I've been teaching them and the clients on them, and obviously now during this time I've been riding them a lot and that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, I think they all have their place, and they all, there's some really good ones. But yeah, I still think there's a place for them. I think they're a good base to really to learn how to ride. I think the thoroughbreds are a really nice horse to ride and to get going in the ring. And then it sort of gets you going onto into the ring, and once you start your transition you to your warm blood horses. I think it's a nice way to sort of step into that. I think they're a nice horse to ride, I think, and to learn on.
Is there, in terms of their trainability, comparing the warm blood and the thoroughbred, are they different kinds of horses to work with? Some people have said that the thoroughbreds are more intelligent horses than the warm bloods. The warm bloods can be a little bit slow on the uptake and a little bit dumb.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think you can get, when you sort of get a horse off the, when you get a horse off the track, it knows sort of how to go forward. So definitely sort of from that point, you can get going a lot quicker than the thoroughbred, where you sort of got to start from the beginning and to teach that, you know what I mean? You got to teach it to go forward now. Whereas a thoroughbred, and that's, it already knows how to go forward, and so yeah, it does make your life a whole lot easier. You okay?
On your to-do list, Simon, you've won a World Cup. You've ticked that box. You yet to win a Derby. There's the World Cup Series. So if I could give you a choice and said, would you rather win a World Cup Series or would you rather win a Derby? Which would you choose?
World Cup Series. I enjoy. I mean, I like, obviously. I mean, like, again, if you have a great Derby horse, and Derby's is a load of fun. Legionnaire was a cool Derby horse, and he took you around it. Casper's not a huge fan of it, so we don't really do too much. We don't really do it. So yeah, I mean, and I enjoy. I mean, I think some of my favorite classes are Grand Prix classes and World Cup classes. I enjoy, sort of the technical aspect of that, and I think that's what I play, and jump offs and that type of thing. I enjoy that the most.
And that's where the top level show jumping has moved to. It takes a different kind of a horse, a very adjustable, rideable, quick-blooded horse nowadays. That's where it seems to be going to win a World Cup class. If you were to win a World Cup Series, would you consider a stint overseas, a campaign overseas, something that Lise has done? I mean, I know, given let's take the money aspect out of it. Let's say the finances were in place. Is that something that you'd love to do? Go and ride against the best in the world?
No, I'd love to. No, absolutely. I think definitely set up something on your bucket list. Yeah, definitely. I mean, what Lisa did, I think that's everybody's dream. Definitely something I would love to do. Definitely. I think.
Do you see yourself getting there? Are there plans ever to go overseas and mount a campaign, or is it now the family and the business all at home now?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's sort of family and business for now. Obviously with that, what we try and do is what I'd like to do, sort of maybe a couple of times a year, is even just go over and just train for a week or two, just to keep yourself motivated and just sort of stand it up. That's what I'd like to do, sort of maybe a couple of times a year. Obviously with time and that. But that's, I mean, I'd like to. That's ultimately, would like to do something like that eventually.
What, in your opinion, and I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball here, for South Africa to have teams, competitive teams overseas, what do you think needs to happen? We've got some very, very talented riders overseas campaigning who are there to stay. So perhaps we could have three of them overseas. I'm talking about an Oliver, a Lexi, and maybe Johan. He's over in Wellington. They've got the horsepower. How do we field a team of four, that fourth player who comes into the scene? And we want to have somebody from local shores who's in South Africa go across and make up that fourth number? What needs to happen?
Well, I mean, I think it's more than possible. I mean, I think our standard of riders and that's here are more than capable of doing it. And I think it's about trying to get everybody just to work together. If we want to do a team, can't have a rider on this side of the world, on this side and the other side. And I think that everybody's got to work together and have a goal. If that's to work as especially in the nations, to do that sort of thing like a Nations Cup. I think it has to be, the riders have to be together and at least be seen at some of the same shows and do some of the same things together. Like I said, I saw some of the other, like Ollie's interview and having a sort of base with Ollie and that type of thing. That would be huge. I think that would be a great thing to have for anybody. Even if whatever, say myself wants to go and train there for a week or so at a time and just to ride and that type of thing. I think that's also a good thing to do. So it brings your standard up and motivates you a little bit more. But I think to have that base, I think is very important. And people to work towards it and have a goal. I think that's important.
So something that's there now, and we should be looking at ways and means that we can capitalize on the situation.
No, 100%. I think it's instead of being trying to do it on your own. I think it's when it comes to that sort of level, I think you can't just be on your own. You need to be, especially coming from South Africa, and at least you have the experience of Ollie there, knows a lot, and Lexi. Having the experience that they've got there, I think you've got to use it. Learn from all of them. They know how it works there and the systems and that type of thing. I think it helps. So yeah, definitely to have a base with someone, or one of them to be involved, or together as a team.
What's left on your to-do list?
We're around here, locally.
Yeah, exactly. Locally, when we get back in the ring, what's at the top of your list?
Yeah, I think obviously to
goals
try
is what I'm saying. What are your goals?
With goals? Yeah, and I think obviously, having Casper now sort of at the end of last year, sort of touching up the in the World Cup sort of classes, just obviously to try and do a season with him and finish, do quite well in the actual series, and anything, SA champs and that type of thing. And also, Lindo's also coming. He's sort of finished up, he did sort of Stocky's dry show now in the 140 classes, so he can start touching in those classes and maybe, also jumping some bigger classes as well. I've just got my stallion sort of in the open classes, jumping there, and again, just getting your young horses up and sort of getting them to that level as well. I was, I get a lot of reward with my young horses. So again, getting them up and getting them up to that, into the open classes eventually.
And last question before we send you on your way. Some of the competition out there, some of the fiercest competitors in the ring, guys that you've always got to watch out for when you go into a jump off, and you know that they're going to be snapping at your heels. Who would they be?
Well, there's lots. You can never underestimate anybody. When it's their day, it's their day. But yeah, obviously anyone. Dominique, Barry, Lorette, all of them. I wouldn't say Jonathan. I suppose one of the fiercest competitors was Kelly and her mare. It was amazing. That was that was terrible news that she lost her. When Kelly Sauce went into the ring, that you were taking up second or third. So Yeah, I mean, lots. I mean, there's lots of competitors. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all hungry. They're
So,
all hungry.
so,
We're all hungry for a win. So
so the sport is in good shape with the quality and the caliber of horse and rider out there, in your opinion.
yeah, 100%. You know, I think I think on any day, there's loads of competition, and anybody can win. You know, it's obviously we want to win, but sometimes it doesn't go our way.
Lots out there to keep you honest. Simon, thanks for the chat. Go and put the kids to bed. President's chatting at 8:30 this evening. Hopefully, we've got some good news coming our way.
Oh, true. Let's hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Take it easy. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks for the chat. Keep well.
Bye.
Bye.